Hello, Mocha!
Hello, Mochas!
Hello.
Hello, Mochas!
Feel at home, feel the learning.
Feel at home, feel the learning.
Feel at home, feel the learning.
Be ready to be equipped with various learnings at the end of this video.
And be ready to equip with various learnings at the end of the video.
And be ready to equip with various learnings at the end of this video.
Ready to equipped with various of learnings at the end of the video.
Be ready to equip the various learnings at the end of the video.
Enjoy!
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 Let us start with Section 1 under this Republic 11232, which is otherwise known as a Revised Corporation Code of the Philippines. So the question here is that when it was approved. It was approved last February 20, 2019 and it was effective last February 23, 2019. In addition, this Republic Act 11232 was replaced by the Batas Pambansa Bilang 68, which was otherwise known as the Corporation Code of the Philippines. Let's proceed to the Section 2. What is a corporation? A corporation is an artificial being created by the operation of law, having the right of succession and the powers, attributes, and properties expressly authorized by law or incident to its existence. What does it mean if we're going to talk about that a corporation is an artificial being? It means that a corporation has a personality separate and distinct from the stockholders or members, which commences upon the issuance of the certificate of its incorporation. So let's proceed to the application of the powers, attributes, and properties of a corporation. So first example, thus, a corporation incorporated as a railroad corporation has the incidental power to build railroads because such power is necessary for the accomplishment of the purpose for which the corporation is created. So the question here is that if we are going to refer to the powers, attributes, and properties of a corporation, are the corporation incorporated as a railroad corporation is allowed to build houses? So second example, but a corporation organized for the purpose of supplying electricity to the public has no power to buy and sell agricultural lands because it is not within the power expressly or impliedly authorized by law or incidental to its existence. So back under the example number 1 in which it has been questioned here if that a corporation incorporated as a railroad corporation is even allowed to build houses. Like for the example under number 2 in which a corporation organized for the purpose of supplying electricity to the public has no power to buy and sell agricultural lands. So the answer for the number 1 is no, since it is not authorized by law or incidental to its existence. So let's have some review. From the definition of the corporation under the Section 2 of the Republic Act 11232, it means that, or it states in here that the corporation has 4 attributes. So what are these? First is that the corporation is an artificial being. Second, a corporation is operated by law. Third is that a corporation has the right of succession. And lastly, the corporation has the powers, attributes, and properties expressly authorized by law or incident to its existence. So now let's proceed to the section 3 under this Republic Act 11232. So in the section 3, it talks about the classes of corporation, which are the stock corporation and the non-stock corporation. Talking about stock corporation, it refers to those which have capital stock divided into shares and are authorized to distribute to the holders of such shares dividends or allotments of the surplus profits on the basis of the shares held. And talking about the non-stock corporations, all other corporations are referred to as non-stock corporations. So what does it mean if we're going to talk about a non-stock corporations? Talking about the non-stock corporation, it means that a non-stock corporation does not have any stocks and no part of its name can be distributed to its members, trustees, or officers as dividends. So now let's proceed to section 4 under this Republic Act. So in this section 4, it talks about the corporations created by special laws or charters. So the corporations created by special laws or charters shall be governed primarily by the provisions at the special law or charter creating them or applicable to them, supplemented by the provision of this code insofar as they are applicable. So what might be the reasons why the corporation must have to be governed primarily by the provisions of the special law? This is supposedly the reasons why the corporation must be governed primarily by the provisions of the special law. First is that for them to monitor and prevent any such illegal acts in the corporation, like for example, the bribery and the corruption. Since the corporation shall be governed primarily by the provisions of the special law, we need to remember this, that a corporation is an artificial person created by law and should be registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Let's move on to the section 5, which talks about the corporators, incorporators, stockholders, and members. So what does the corporators means, or who are the corporators? Who are those persons that we can consider as corporators? So corporators are those who compose a corporation, whether as stockholders or shareholders in a stock corporation or as members in a non-stock corporation. On the other hand, incorporators are those stockholders or members mentioned in the Articles of Incorporation as originally forming and composing the corporation and who are signatories thereof. Not all incorporators are corporators, but a corporator is not necessarily an incorporator. So who are the stockholders? Stockholders are the owners of shares of stock in a stock corporation, owners of the corporation, and they are also called or referred to as the shareholders. And lastly, they are the corporators in a stock corporators. And how about members? Who are those persons that we can call as members? Members are the corporators of a corporation which has no capital stock. And if we're going to talk about members, they are in the non-stock corporation. And the stockholders, they are in the stock corporation. So an article of incorporation, it means that it is a document that is needed to form a corporation in the Philippines. The Section 6 of the Revised Corporation Code of the Philippines states in here that the classification of shares, their corresponding rights, privileges,
or restrictions and their stated par value, if any, must be indicated in the articles of incorporation. So what does it mean if we're going to talk about a par value? What is that par value means? A par value is the face value of a bond. That's it. Next is that each share shall be equal in all respects to every other share except is otherwise provided in the articles of incorporation and in the certificate of stock. It has been discussed earlier if what is an article of incorporation. Articles of incorporation, for us to have some review, is a document that is needed to form a corporation in the Philippines. The share stock corporations may be divided into classes or series of shares, or both. No share may be deprived of voting rights except those classified and issued as preferred or redeemable shares. So what does preferred or redeemable shares mean? A preferred shares means that they are the securities that represent ownership in a corporation and that have a priority claim over common shares on the company assets and earnings, unless otherwise provided in this code. Provided that there shall be a class or series of shares with complete voting rights. So you need to remember that there must be a complete voting rights. Holders of non-voting shares shall nevertheless be entitled to vote on the following matters. First, the amendment of the Articles of Incorporation. Letter B, adoption and amendment of bylaws. C, sale, lease, exchange, mortgage, pledge, or other disposition of all or substantially all of the corporate property. Letter D, incurring, creating, or increasing bond indebtedness. Letter E, increase or decrease of authorized capital stock. Letter F, merger or consolidation of the corporation with another corporation or other corporations. Letter G, investment of corporate funds in another corporation or business in accordance with this code. And letter H, the dissolution of the corporation.
Except as provided in the immediately preceding paragraph, the vote required under this code approve a particular corporate act shall be deemed refer only to stocks with voting rights. Preferred shares of stock issued by a corporation may be given preference in the distribution of dividends, in the distribution of the corporate assets, in case of liquidation or such other preferences, provided that preferred shares of the stock may be issued only with a stated par value. The shares or series of shares may or may not have a par value, provided that banks, trusts, insurance, and pre-need companies, public utilities, building and loans associations, and other corporations authorized to obtain or access funds from the public, whether publicly listed or not, shall not be permitted to due no par value shares of stock. So what is a no par value means? No par value, it means that it is a stock which does not state how much money it represents.
Hi, I'm Alanis Sandra and I will be discussing to you about Sections 7, 8, and 9 and Title 2 of Revised Corporation Code of the Philippines.
Section 7 Founder Shares. Founder shares may be given certain rights and privileges not enjoyed by the owners of other stock, where the exclusive right to vote and be voted for in the election of directors is granted. It must be for a limited period not to exceed 5 years from the date of incorporation, provided that such exclusive rights shall not be allowed if its exercise will violate Commonwealth Act No. 108, otherwise known as the Anti-Dummy Law, Republic Act Number 7042, otherwise known as the Foreign Investment Act of 1991 and otherwise known as Foreign Investment Act of 1991, and other pertinent laws. In summary, founder shares usually given to the incorporators or whoever is the founder of the corporation, and it must be indicated in the AOI or Articles of Incorporation. It is said that there were certain rights and privileges. So question, if these founder shares have this kind of rights, so it is said that there were exclusive right to vote and be voted for in the election of directors is granted. Because, come to think of it, if you have this exclusive right to vote and be voted, then it simply means that there may be a possibility to set ourselves as director of the corporation. Limitations of which was not to exceed 5 years from the date of incorporation. And of course, it will not violate Commonwealth Act number 108 and other pertinent laws. So for 5 years, you will have the right to enjoy this benefit, but it cannot last for beyond 5 years. So any other right does not have limitations, only this exclusive right has limitations.
Section 8, Redeemable Shares. Redeemable shares may be issued by the corporation when expressly provided in the Articles of Incorporation. They are shares which may be purchased by the corporation from the holders of such shares upon the expiration of a fixed period, regardless of the existence of unrestricted retained earnings in the books of the corporation, and upon such other terms and conditions stated in the Articles of Incorporation and the certificate of stock representing the shares, subject to rules and regulations issued by the Commission.
So let's go to summary. So redemption shares are shares that can be redeemed in the future. Example of which are redemption date, redemption price. So redeemable shares may be issued by the corporation when expressly provided in the Articles of Incorporation. So if it was not listed at the Articles of Incorporation, then dili na to siya pwede i-issue. So as we've learned in our previous discussion, redeemable shares cannot be treated as equity in some certain instances wherein it is a liability to a corporation. So regardless, it doesn't matter if we have balance in our unrestricted retained earnings. So there is a big difference when it comes to the purchase of treasury shares. So next, Section 9, Treasury shares are shares of stock which have been issued and fully paid for, but subsequently reacquired by the issuing corporation through purchase, redemption, donation, or some other lawful means. Such shares may again be disposed of for a reasonable price fixed by the Board of Directors. So in summary, treasury shares are past issued shares, but for certain purposes or instances, it was buyback by the corporation. So the difference between redeemable shares and treasury shares was the existence of the unrestricted retained earnings. And on treasury shares, it is important to have balance on unrestricted retained earnings. So let us move on the Title 2, Incorporation and Organization of Private Corporation. Okay, but first, let us define first what is an incorporator. So they are the one originally formed the corporation and can now be juridical persons, not just natural persons.
So Section 10, Number and Qualifications of Incorporators. Any person, partnership, association, and corporation, singly or jointly with others but not more than 15 in number, may organize a corporation for any lawful purpose or purposes, provided that natural persons who are licensed to practice a profession and partnership or associations organized for the purpose of practicing a profession shall not be allowed to organize as a corporation unless otherwise provided under special laws. Incorporators who are natural persons must be of legal age Each incorporator of a stock corporation must own or be a subscriber to at least one share of capital stock. A corporation with a single stockholder is considered a one-person corporation as described in Title 8, Chapter 3 of this code. Summary: any person, partnership, association, or corporation, singly or jointly with others but not more than 15, can create a corporation. It can be 2 or more, but of course not more than 15. And in case of OPC or one-person corporation, you can only have one single stockholder and one sole director. Each must own at least one share of stock. So, practice of profession is not allowed to organize as a corporation unless allowed under special laws. Example, architecture, chemistry, and engineering. So next, Section 11, Corporate Term. A corporation shall have perpetual existence unless its articles of incorporation provides otherwise. So, in summary, for both code, the old and revised code of the corporation, both maximum of 50 years and can extend it for another 50 years. So this time, this can be no longer relevant. So this time, under Section 11 of RCC is that it provides for perpetual existence unless the articles of incorporation provides. Specific term may be beyond 50 years, and for existing corporations before February 23, 2019, Day 2 would be automatically perpetual term unless they notify the SEC or Securities of Exchange Commission that they opt to keep their original term as stated in the Articles of Incorporation. In respect to corporations with expired terms, they may be applied for revival. That's the end of my discussion. Hope you've learned a lot. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Rizzo Pipito and I'm going to discuss from Section 12 until Section 14 from the Revised Corporation Code of the Philippines.
The next topics that I'm going to discuss are Section 12, 13, and 14 from the Revised Corporation Code of the Philippines, RA 11232. Section 12. This section talks about the minimum capital stock required of stock corporations. It says that there is no minimum capital stock. Corporations shall not be required to have minimum capital stock except as otherwise specifically provided by special law. What is a capital stock? A capital stock is the amount of common and preferred shares that the company is authorized to issue according to its corporate charter. Capital stock can only be issued by the company and is the maximum number of shares that can ever be outstanding. One-person corporation. The code allows formation of one-person corporation, a corporation with a single stockholder and without a minimum authorized capital stock required. Special laws may require a higher paid-up capital as in the case of commercial banks, insurance companies, and investment houses. Filipino percentage ownership requirement regarding corporate capital. And these are the following cases. So next is Section 13. According to this section, the amount of capital stocks to be described and paid for purposes of incorporation must be at least 25% of the authorized capital stock as stated in the Articles of Incorporation must be subscribed at the time of incorporation, and at least 25% of the total subscription must be paid upon subscription. The balance to be payable on a date or date fixed in the contract of subscription without need of call, or in the absence of the date or fixed dates upon call for payment by the Board of Directors, provided, however, that in no case shall the paid-up capital be less than 5,000 pesos. So let's proceed to Section 14, the contents of Articles of Incorporation.
Articles of Corporation. These are the following exceptions as otherwise prescribed by this code or by special law.
And I'll be discussing Section 15 to 18 from the Revised Corporation Code of the Philippines.
Section 15. The amendment of Articles of Corporation. Unless otherwise prescribed by this code or by special law and for legitimate purposes, any provision or matter stated in the Articles of Incorporation may be amended by a majority vote of the Board of Directors or Trustees and the vote or written assent of the stockholders representing at least two-thirds of the outstanding capital, without prejudice to the appraisal right of dissenting stockholders in accordance with the provision of this code. The Articles of Incorporation of a non-stock corporation may be amended by the vote or written assent of majority of the trustees and at least two-thirds of the members. The original and amended articles together shall contain all provisions required by law to be set out in the Articles of Incorporation. Amendments to the articles shall be indicated by underscoring the change or changes made, and a copy thereof duly certified under oath by the corporate secretary and a majority of the directors or trustees to the corporation. So, to summarize it all, it bears great emphasis that there is a proper procedure for amending the Articles of Incorporation in the Philippines. Any revision thereto cannot be done by mere corporate memo or notice. Hence, should one wish to change the corporate name, principal office address, number of directors, or purpose of the corporation, compliance with Section 15 of the Corporation Code is mandatory, in which there are three basic requirements for amending the Articles of Incorporation, namely, majority vote of the Board of Directors, written assent of the stockholders representing at least two-thirds of the outstanding capital stock, and approval by the Securities and Exchange Commission. If the aforementioned are being concluded, then the amendments shall take effect. Section 16 of the Revised Corporation Code of the Philippines. Grounds when articles of incorporation or amendment may be disapproved. The Commission may disapprove the articles of incorporation or any amendment thereto if the same is not compliant with the requirements of this code. The following are grounds for such disapproval: A. The Articles of Incorporation or any amendment thereto is not substantially in accordance with the form prescribed herein. B. The purpose or purposes of the corporation are patently unconstitutional, illegal, immoral, or contrary to government rules and regulations. C. The certification concerning the amount of capital stock subscribed and or paid is false. And D. The required percentage of Filipino ownership of the capital stock under existing laws or the Constitution has not been complied with. Furthermore, the names of the incorporators, the first set of directors and subscribers, the initial treasurer, their original subscription, and the place and date of execution of the first articles of incorporation cannot be amended. If the Securities and Exchange Commission finds the amendment in order, it shall correspondingly issue a certificate of amendment of articles of incorporation. It is worth emphasizing that if a corporation does not properly amend its article of incorporation, the corporation shall be penalized by the Securities and Exchange Commission. Section 17 of the Revised Corporation Code of the Philippines. Corporate name. First of all, what is a corporate name? Corporate name is a legal name of a corporation and is used by an entity that is formed as a corporation. A law, and when its use is contrary to existing law, rules, and regulations. The same section provides that even if a corporate name contains one or more of the following: A. The word Section 18 of the Revised Corporation Code of the Philippines talks about the registration, incorporation, and commencement of corporate existence. A person or group of persons desiring to incorporate shall submit the intended corporate name to the Commission for verification. If the Commission finds that the name is distinguishable from a name already reserved or registered for the use of another corporation, not protected by law and not contrary to law, rules, and regulations, the name shall be reserved in favor of the incorporators. The incorporators shall then submit their articles of incorporation and bylaws to the Commission. If the Commission finds that the submitted documents and information are fully compliant with the requirements of this code, other relevant laws, rules, and regulations, the Commission shall issue the certificate of incorporation. A private corporation organized under this code commences its corporate existence and juridical personality from the date that the Commission. So to be precise, the following are the key points of Section 18. It tackles about how a person or group of persons register their intended corporate name and what is to be taken into account in order for their corporate existence to commence. For a corporate to exist, a person or group of persons must present the planned corporate name to the Securities and Exchange Commission for verification and present their articles of incorporation and bylaws to the Commission. Once the aforementioned are being complied, then the issuance of the certificate of incorporation is only granted once the Commission verifies that the submitted documents are fully compliant and the private corporation only commences its corporate existence and juridical personality once the Commission issues the certificate of certification